Here's my confession. I don't love talking about every aspect of my niche. I know, don't judge me. Here's the thing. I love talking about storytelling and vulnerability and building your business. But I don't always love the tactical, practical stuff about posting a video on YouTube or building a funnel. It doesn't thrill me in the same way. But of course I have to talk about it and teach that, and I have to make it interesting for me so that it's interesting for my viewers. If you're struggling with this, I have a technique for you and some stories that you can tell. Here's how to never be boring no matter the topic. One of my first clients that I ever worked for was a plumbing company. And I could have just said, plumbing? Boring, and jumped to the conclusion, assumed that it just wouldn't work for social media. Or I could have taken the route of, Googling a bunch of fun facts about plumbing and made some little graphics out of it, or thrown a little animated toilet into the mix too. That would have been fine. That was my first route. That's all I knew how to do back then when I first started out as a social media manager. But as I spent more time with this company, I started to get to know the employees, and I had the biggest change of heart. I worked for them for almost 3 years, and from that 3 years, I now know way more about plumbing than I ever bargained for. But it's not because I studied it or felt obligated to learn it as part of the job. You know the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? Over the years working with them, I observed how they would go the extra mile. And I know you hear about those companies all the time. They just go above and beyond. But these guys, I remember there was this one day that it snowed a lot. In Canada, it snows a lot. And this isn't like how in some places they get a little dusting of snow and the city shuts down. It's up to my knees. We are shoveling multiple times a day. And one of the service techs said that he was going to go stop by a client's house that he'd been to the other day so that he could shovel her walkway. This woman was an elderly lady living alone, and he knew that she would have trouble doing it herself. And they did things like this all the time. And I got to know how a lot of these guys, they were volunteer coaches for kids' sports leagues. They got involved in community events and fundraisers. And I was like, I can't just post about fun facts about furnace filters and dripping faucets. This city needs to know how awesome these guys are. And I want to tell you the next thing that I did to help them out that blew up their business and their social media. But first, have you subscribed to my channel yet? I post new videos about video marketing and business acceleration every single week, so go ahead and click that red button. I realized that I began to adore this company because they adored their company. So I started creating content based on how they were. I got to know the people that made up this company so I could tell their stories. Because remember, we want to appeal to a human, not just a buyer. So with the content, we shared and celebrated their families. We talked about their hobbies. We showcased other causes and communities that they were involved in. And then I had this one guy, one of the service technicians, as I got to know him, I learned that he was really good at improv and impressions. And somehow when we were talking, he put on an Australian accent, and we came up with this hilarious idea to create a character named Plumber Dundee. And so we created these hilarious videos about Plumber Dundee, and we built memorable stories out of the passion that these people had for their business. Here are the basic steps to creating impactful content that actually converts into sales. Step 1 is to build your own original content that's authentic to you. And step 2 is to drive impact with that thing. Now, obviously we're oversimplifying here, but I promise you, when you lead with a story, the impact and profit comes so much easier and with less effort. But to really demonstrate this for you, let me introduce you to my story selling framework. It's an acronym called the ELSA framework. And yes, this may remind you of the one and only Elsa, the Snow Queen who sings Let It Go, but for these purposes, do not let it go. Hold on to this so that you are set up to turn your content into cash. ELSA breaks down into epiphany, lesson, story, and application. So let's start with E, epiphany. Your epiphany is so important in your content and your storytelling. It's way more important than just the publishing your face off. This is how you make sure that your content is not boring, because you don't get paid by the amount of content you create. You get paid to the level that you get your audience to engage. You do that through stories. If you can hook your audience in and give them that epiphany that helps them break through or maybe even changes their mind about something, when your stories are better than their stories, aka their false beliefs, they're much more likely to engage with your content and you are more likely to get paid. So I'm thinking about, what is the underlying epiphany that I want my audience to take away from this content? Because if I don't have that intention set, I may as well just create content for the sake of content. That's not what we're here to do. We are here to make an impact and a profit, and you don't do that by just winging it. The second part of the ELSA acronym is the L for lesson. As a kid, and if I'm being honest, even now, my biggest excuse to not go to bed on time was, but I just need another story. And I'd be like, Mom, it's educational. Because, every story that starts with once upon a time has a moral of the story. But when I say lesson, I don't want you to think buttoned up, robotic, Charlie Brown teacher, wah, wah, wah. The lesson you teach or the moral of the story is important. But if you're using just cold, hard facts, remember, you're speaking to the left side of the brain. The stats and the tactics, sure, that shows that you know what you're talking about. But if it's all stats and no story, it's a snooze fest. If it's all statement and no substance, it's fluff. So how do you give the lesson, this moral of the story, in the way that's memorable? I was actually following this influencer recently, and she was doing this Instagram live video where she basically just kept repeating the same phrases, kind of just in different words, saying things like, you can do anything you set your mind to, and don't give up on your dreams, and there's always a way. And I was like, great. And I didn't understand the context or the reason why she was saying those things. Sure, it's positive and uplifting and great advice, but if it's just a drive-by pat on the shoulder with no context, aren't you still questioning why? What's the takeaway? What's the meaningful message that will be remembered? I kind of sat there for a second wondering, how much of personal development is just Barney for adults? I don't know about you, but I like to have the kind of content where you have this aha moment or you feel an emotional shift. That's the stuff that's making a lasting impact. That's the stuff that makes you memorable. It makes people trust you enough for them to want to give you their credit card. You owe it to yourself and to your audience to create a transformation. And we teach through stories. We consider the epiphany we want our audience to have, the story that we can tell to give that epiphany, the lessons we want to get across, and the application or the call to action, the next step that they can implement. And your stories will also teach a lesson about you, your attractive character, and allow your audience to learn or feel from your own experience. And this is what takes us to the S in ELSA. So what story are you going to tell that naturally incorporates your epiphany and your lesson? And people always ask me, where do you get your stories? But honestly, my best advice here is that there are content ideas all around you. You just have to take the time to learn how to see it and learn how your content can become a cash flow system for your business. You don't necessarily need to go looking for stories because your trip to the grocery store can become a story. Your recent phone call with a friend can become a story. Reorganizing your closet can become a story. Don't stress if you can't come up with a story out of thin air because I guarantee they already exist in your life. So take stock of what you've done and where you've been in the past or anything interesting that's happened to you, and how can you relate that back to your message? What's the lesson? Where's the epiphany? Think about that. And when you go out into the world after today, try to do so with this mindset so that you can be aware in the moment of the lesson, the epiphany that you can use when you retell this story to your audience. As you grow as a person, as an entrepreneur, your content evolves. I believe that entrepreneurship is a game of personal development. My content isn't the same as it was a year ago because I'm not the same as I was a year ago or a month ago or a week ago. And that self-awareness and growth is going to impact how profound you can be in your content too. Over time, you'll keep growing your entire story inventory so that you can reach into it anytime you're launching a new video or speaking at an event or creating a new piece of content so that none of it is ever boring. Another thing that I hope takes the pressure off for you is to realize that you already have the content and the frameworks inside of you. Content isn't created, it's captured. What we're doing here today, what we're talking about is capturing the content so you can apply it to your business and reap the rewards in your business growth. Once you follow through on these steps, you can ensure that your content is never boring and it's leading your viewers into sales. And I want to take you one step closer to ascending those leads into high ticket sales. If you really want to take it over the edge and learn the science behind turning passive viewers into high ticket buyers, you're going to love my private training. Click the link in the video description below to secure your spot, and I'll break down the exact steps so you can plug and play your way to 7-figure cash flow. And yes, this may remind you of the over time, you'll keep growing your entire story inventory so that you can reach